Hi, everyone. Welcome to Catching Claudia. Today, we're interviewing Walter Wright about his experience in Colombia. So, welcome to the channel.
Halfway to Mexico, halfway to Tokyo, on this open road. You've arrived, and I'm singing you the song on the west side.
Thanks for having me, Claudia. I'm really excited to be here. Super excited. I've seen all the stuff you've been doing so far and love it.
Thank you. Oh my God. So, I guess first we should do a little background. I met Walter when we were doing, both of us, did you do a major or a minor?
I did a major, yeah.
Okay, we both studied African and African American studies, and he was doing the major, I was doing the minor, and so that we were in several classes together, and that's how we met, and at East Carolina University. So yeah, but tell me about yourself. I know that was a brief introduction, but
So yeah, I went to East Carolina University. Um, I majored in political science, African American studies, got my minor in Hispanic studies, and ethnic studies. And right now, like I started off as a teacher. I'm an assistant principal now, just kind of working in education. Love to travel. That's like my pastime. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that here and there. Just love to kind of be out in the open, exploring new things. That's just kind of my thing. So, but yeah, overall, just kind of like trying to get at least trying to put more places on my map. Like I have like an interactive map that'll like scratch off different places. And so like right now, that's kind of like my biggest like life goals and like things that I'm really focusing on is just like really trying to like get around, explore new places, discover new stuff. So
I feel that. Yeah. What was I gonna say? First of all, I did not realize you had two minors and two majors.
yeah,
I was like, wait a minute, ethnic studies too, and Hispanic studies, but I got that minor too, but I guess we just our classes weren't in the same place at the time.
all over the place. I did well made like most of my I think I took like three Hispanic study classes, but like most of my studying abroad took care of everything else. So like
Okay.
that's why we didn't run into each other just because I did like probably the vast majority. I think I only took two or three classes um for Hispanic studies like on campus at ECU. So
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I that's how I ended up doing the minor because I studied abroad in Spain, and
oh,
because of my major, I had so many credits for Spanish already, and then going to Spain, I just had random credits. So then I was
great.
like, oh, I have three classes left for a minor. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm doing it.
Might as well, right?
Right. I was like, ugh, I've already put in this much work. What's two more classes or three more classes?
Right.
So okay, so yeah, you've been working in Texas, and I know that you actually did have a two study abroad experiences in Latin American countries, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, technically, I guess three. Yeah, I did one post grad, but like I graduated in May, but like I just finished in the summer,
Okay,
like research in a way. So that was, but it was still through ECU and kind of like the regular.
where was
Um,
that?
it was in Dominican Republic in Santiago.
Oh, wow, I did not know about that. Okay, so and then you did Argentina, from what I
Yep.
remember. Okay,
Mhm.
Argentina, then you did a long time in Colombia.
Yep. Yep. That
Okay,
was the long.
and then that's really cool. So I'm super interested about, obviously, I'm interested in Argentina as well, but I know that you spent longer in Colombia, so I feel like we can talk about both. So first, what made you interested even in studying Spanish and Hispanic studies in the first place?
Um, I think for me, like I grew up in a neighborhood that was pretty mixed, so it was predominantly African American, but also like predominantly African American and Hispanic, and so I grew up kind of having both types of friends, and it was just kind of something that was kind of a household thing. Like, okay, I go outside, I have a lot of black and brown friends, and I kind of learned Spanish a little bit, like just little things here and there as I went through like grade school. And then once I got to ECU, I'm majored actually in international business and like ECU requires international business majors to study abroad for a semester. Like it's a requirement. But then like I think like a semester and a half maybe went by and I'm like, okay, this is whack. Like I took like 2 business. I'm just like, yo, this is not cool. Well, not even like this is not cool. Like it just wasn't for me, right? I
Right.
like more and things like that. And so I was still interested to study abroad though, because like that kind of piqued my interest once they told us that you had to study abroad if you major in international business. So I was like, well, I still kind of want to study abroad. And then I was in one of my professor's classes and she was like aggressively recruiting people to go to Argentina. And I was just like, I mean, okay, like I knew nothing about it. I didn't really like just it was like, oh, okay, like let's do it. And I know we had a new chancellor around that time. And the chancellor was like trying to go from like regional to like, well, let's like be a nationally recognized university. So they were giving out all those scholarships and
Right.
increasing all places and opportunities to go. So I was like looking at some of the little yard signs that have the different countries on them and all this stuff. And I'm like, I guess like let's just see. And I kind of fell into it low key. Like I know it sounds crazy, but I was just like, okay, like do this. And I'm like, okay, I did it. And like fill out this paper and like I did it. And then like before you know it, like financial aid was like, okay, fully paid for. And I was like, wait, what? It was like, but that's the big
Whoa.
so it's just
Yeah.
man. So
So how long did you stay in Argentina?
I stayed in Argentina for the summer, and so a little over 2 months, almost 3 months in
Mm,
Argentina.
okay. Wow. Did you like it? I mean, I always, so when I was studying Spanish, they talked about Argentina, and I was like, it looks very beautiful. But I know some things I have heard, I was like, I don't know, as a Black person, but it looks beautiful.
You definitely alluded to a lot. Argentina was not what I thought it was gonna be, right? First of all, like for me, whenever I thought about a Latin American country, I was like, okay, like my family has somewhat of a like we have like an ethnic background ourselves. So I was thinking to myself, like food, things like that would be kind of like Latin American. Like you think, typically like not all things, but for the most part, like when I think of Latin America, I know that like, you go to different places, there's different types of cuisine and stuff. Like I was expecting kind of like, like different types of rices, different types of beans, different types of vegetables, things like that. When I went to Argentina, it was lots of meats and starches. Like it was very
Mm.
European, um, very, very, very European, like capitalized all the letters in European because it was like, I thought I was kind of like in Europe, but like no, I wasn't. So it was really it was a very different experience. Yeah, very different experience, especially the Black experience. That was very yeah. That was yeah.
I was like, I obviously there's so much to say, but I don't know. Like I said, it seems very beautiful, but I knew in my experience from what I read, I was like, because I think I was looking at that trip too. So then I guess we can just jump into Colombia. Comparatively, how did you feel about Colombia?
I was in Colombia, the parts where I were because Colombia's like split up in several different ways, and so like I chose the part of Colombia that I went to because of the amount of Afro people that were there. Um, in comparison to Argentina, where like kind of like brown colored, maybe Latinos, like more mestizo. Latinos would be like darker skinned or like they would get discriminated against versus like typically you would think, oh, well, like African American. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, like let me choose a place that has more folks that look like me or that has at least have like some of the similar experiences. And then furthermore, because I like concentrated in Latin American, Caribbean, and African American studies, and like obviously Hispanic studies as well. Um, I was wanting to like get more of experience with like historically like different Afro places, and so in Colombia, I was able to get more experience or like more exposure to like historical sites and just be able to research more so where I wanted to be at. So like I was able to see the first free place ever in all of the Americas in Palenque de Basilio. So that's like the first African maroonage of like just free people. Like they developed their own government, army, things like that, in order for there not to
Wow.
be. In Cartagena, that's like an hour and a half away from where I was staying at Barranquilla. So like we went there like weekends at a time. You know what I mean? Every other weekend we were there because you could hustle for like $7 and just stay there for the weekend. And so that was the first ever slave port in South America. And so it was like the gateway for obviously slavery, but other things too as well for trading and stuff like that. But I was more so went for the reason of like researching like the experience of enslaved folks while they were there. And it was all around just a great experience. Like I said, comparatively to Argentina, it was just like in Argentina, I didn't really even meet a lot of Argentinians. I met more Brazilians and got more, I guess, influence from like the Brazilians I was studying with versus in Colombia. I was able to vibe with the people and really understand the culture more. I think that was really the biggest thing. Like I felt so much like me because I seen people that look like me, that look like us, right? We could walk on the street and people would just like look at us and probably start speaking Spanish because they think we're pretty much one of them because we look like them. And so that helped me and pushed me to learn Spanish like more because I guess I wasn't as pressured to do it because if you're in a place where people don't look like you, you feel pressured to like actually try to communicate with them and like really pressured to go and do all those things. But like at least in Colombia, like I was able to take my time and it made me want to do it even more and more and more because of the fact that like, okay, like I don't have this pressure of like sticking out like a sore thumb because I don't
Right.
look like I do. So it's crazy how identity influenced so much in my decision and even my experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely feel like that helps looking like where you are because, as someone who's trying to learn a language, it can be nerve-wracking, but if someone just starts speaking to you in the language, it's like, okay, I could speak back versus they might start speaking to you in English and then you're like, well, I kind of want to practice Spanish
Right.
and it's a whole thing. So I definitely get that, especially you were there for how long? You said you were in Barranquilla and you were there for,
I was there for 2 semesters.
oh
Two full.
wow. You were in there. How was that? So that's a long time. What were the culture shocks that you were feeling when you were in Colombia?
Well, the biggest thing was like in Argentina, yeah, I stayed with a host family, but since it was a short amount of time, I think that in Colombia, my host family they were like okay, I guess, but in Colombia, I think that staying like I guess like staying in a household that only spoke Spanish, but like even in Argentina, like I would go to school with folks who spoke English, and then like I had more English influence, but in Colombia, that it was just not that way. Like all my classes were in Spanish. Like I took college level courses in Spanish at the university. There was no foreign exchange class. This that like no, everything was in Spanish. Like I took a literature class in Spanish, and I was just like, bro, what? Like we were like looking at like Spanish literature, like not Colombian literature, but like straight up like you know like like if you were like reading Shakespeare in English, like the same equivalent like
Oh
in
my
Spanish.
goodness.
It's just like okay, like it's just crazy. And then also the part that I was in is Caribbean, so it's the Caribbean part, and it's not so much of a culture shock because I know that like my family has Caribbean influences, but I think that me not actually living there, but now I'm like in the Caribbean because Barranquilla, Cartagena, all those places are like that identify as Caribe, like that identify as Caribbean people. So like it's very like relaxed. It's very like okay, someone says meet at 7 o'clock, then they show up at 7:30, 7:45. They're just kind of like chilling out versus everything is just so fast paced. Here, the driving there, people just drive really, really like it's like organized chaos. Like people drive really fast
Mhm.
and like really just like all over the place, the buses, things like that. But overall, I think that people, right? Like I wasn't used to people wanting to be so friendly and so close. Like we talk about Southern hospitality, and then the fact that I went there and I did not like act like an American. I didn't do this whole stereotypical American thing. Like I did my thing with the Colombians. Like I spent most of my time with Colombians versus I had other people that were like really with a lot of times they were Americans, like they want to go to the mall and eat or like, these restaurants and eat. And I'm like, no, like I kind of want to, get something from this little shack over here. Or like, yeah, I'd rather spend more time with the Colombians. And so they were just really teaching me their ways. But like the fact that like the whole experience itself was a culture shock just because like I was just not that used to people like just being so friendly. And they weren't like creepily like overly friendly. They were just like genuine, like, just open people. And I'm like, even on like some of the most friendliest like southern places that have all the southern hospitality, like it's just unmatched. Like it's so unmatched.
Really? You're making me want to go there now. Does your family like to travel, or are you one of the first in your family to really do something like this?
No one in my family really travels like that. Like really no one in my community travels like that, to be honest. Like where I'm from, like in my neighborhood, like my family, like nobody. So like it was really big for me to go because like especially like on social media, so like Facebook, because that's where all the aunties and uncles and cousins and
Yeah.
neighbors, everybody is, right? So like I use my Instagram because it's like that's where my college friends are, like kind of a younger vibe, like on Facebook. Like I realized how impactful it was for me to go, for like my family and my just like my community around me, because so many people were engaged in my travel. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start posting a little bit more on Facebook, because like I seen the reaction. People were like, whoa, you're out here, you're traveling, like you're doing this, you're doing that. And I'm like, I was just kind of doing whatever. And so like I actually didn't really say much to my mom until like, because like I've been on my own for the longest. Like I've still had support from family as far as like, the emotional support or whatever. But like I think since I was like 16, I've been like financially kind of supporting myself for the most part. But my mom and my brothers and sisters, like they were there, definitely there supportive. Like, oh wow, like you're going out. But like I told my mom maybe 4 days before I went, I was like, yeah, like by the way,
Uh-uh. You're not right.
she was just like, oh my god, like you are crazy, but like this is my son, so I guess like
Oh my goodness. That is
yeah.
scary. But I get that because my grandmother, I do that with her all the time. I'll be in the airport like, "Oh, I'm going we'll just say Spain. I'm going to Spain today," or I'll be on the way back. "Oh yeah, I just did a trip here," cuz it's that fear and that unknown that they just I don't know. And I'm like, I don't need your stressing me out.
Right.
So I
So you
get
went
it.
in,
I get it, but 4 days for your mom?
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
It
what
was
school did you attend when you were there? So from what I remember, because this was like what, 2018 or something?
mhm.
Okay, from what I remember, did you not go to Medellin too, or was that just a little trip?
So I went to Medellin. I studied in different places too. Like I studied with
Okay.
my university at different places because I was involved in several different types of study. Because I was also a researcher at the university. But I went to University of Norte, like, or University of the North. Um, but it was like I also worked, like I studied classes, right? But like I said, I did researching and stuff too. So I was researching. So you know how Colombia has like a lot of guerrilla warfare,
Mhm.
um, with like drug and violence and stuff. And so they were doing a program where, because I was like doing like pre-law stuff, and there was just a professor um, that he was doing a law journal. He was a law professor. He was on a law journal, and he was also helping implement the like international laws down there. Like they were pretty much punishing everyone for like blowing up cities and doing all those crazy things. But
Mm.
instead of putting them in jail, they were like, okay, we're gonna do different type of punishment that actually helps society. So like they're putting them to like 5 years of rebuilding the communities that they like messed up, but they were trying to find a way to implement it so it could like meet international standards. So I was able to do research for a professor there, and so I was able to travel to like Medellin. I was able to travel to Cali, which is where a lot of this stuff like happened. Buenaventura, like which is like Chaco is like a state where it's 92% all Afro, like untouched by colonization, like anything like
Mhm.
are just like straight Afro. So like um,
Wow.
was able to go to those places. And that's kind of how I traveled there, but I was always in Barranquilla. Barranquilla is where I was always at because that's where the university is. But I was able to do those things, like travel through those ways. So it's like, no, I didn't like technically study, I guess, in those places, like as far as like where my university was, but definitely were there to do research. And I was able to get put into a international law journal as like it's published. So
Wow.
dope just for like making sure stuff was good and like helping the research. I was like,
That's
this is pretty
awesome.
dope.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how did you travel around? Did you bus or how did you get to all these different cities?
So similar to like maybe your experience in Spain, and I'm just like throwing that out there because I know a lot of people that have said that like their European travels have been connected by like Ryanair and like kind of the cheap air tickets. But like most of Latin America don't have really good train systems, so that was out, right? But what they for that they kind of overcompensated with like buses, and so you can take a $7 bus to go to Cartagena, which is an hour and a half away. It's like going from maybe Greenville to Durham or something like that.
Okay.
Not super far. And then so you could take a bus to places like that or Santa Marta. So like Barranquilla is like in the middle, and then Santa Marta is like an hour and a half, like kind of going to Durham one way, and then like maybe east or something like that. It actually Santa Marta is east, and then Cartagena's like west, kind of going to Durham that way. So you had two different places you could go hang
So
out that were like
like an hour, hour and a half.
yeah. So you
Okay.
could take the bus there. And then the flights were like to Medellin, to Cali, to Bucaramanga, to all the other like bigger cities, Bogota, were like 35 to $60 inside. And they have different prices. Yeah. For Colombia, we're not citizens, but like we always use my address, my Colombian address. So I got the Colombian price. Cause like I live
Okay.
in so I was like, I'm gonna get the Colombian price versus if you're like flying from other places, then it's a lot, more expensive. But since I had an address to put down, then I was able to get the Colombian price versus if like you're just traveling, you don't have like a Colombian address to put down.
Right.
So,
You have my wheels turning right now. I'm like, let me go see about studying abroad, grad
yeah,
school edition.
just
That that's really cool. I mean, $35 and I find that really interesting that these other countries have such cheap flights versus like the US. I'm just trying to go say to Texas. It's like $230 on a good day. So
right.
I think that's really cool. It gives you so much opportunity to explore the country. Um, Out of those cities, which ones were your favorite? Or I don't know if it's even comparable, but
I'm gonna take Barranquilla out. Gosh, like this is like probably the most stressful question I've been asked all year.
are you
Like,
serious? Well, okay,
yeah, 'cause
I'll switch it. What were the vibes of these cities? Just like you know how Texas, Houston has a vibe, Austin has a vibe. What were the vibes and which vibe did you like? Still kind of the same, but
like the cities that were the blackest were just those were just my like places, like specifically Cartagena and Cali, because Cartagena and Cali, so like you have Colombia, and so Panama used to be a part of Colombia, and so how Panama is the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the Pacific on the other.
Mhm.
And so Colombia, since they're connected on South America, that side, you have the Pacific side of Colombia, have the Atlantic side of Colombia. Either way, both of them are coastal. So like, I don't want to say the Caribbean vibe because like technically the Pacific is not the Caribbean, but like that ocean, like I just call it Caribbean vibe, but like Cartagena, Barranquilla, um, and then Cali, like those are just the blackest places that I were. Like Barranquilla is more black and brown, and it's a commuter city versus Cartagena and Cali are like where people go really visit. And
Okay.
so that's Cartagena and Cali because I felt so good there. Like there are like dishes and like all types of different stuff that were just so similar to like what I was used to back at home, but it had the Caribbean twist to it. So it's just I just felt so at home, but like it was still different. Like it was comfortable enough to be like what I like, but it was so different to where I could still like, because I don't want to go somewhere different and be like, oh, let me just look for what I normally get. But like it's just a weird mix of like being comfortable, but also like the difference that I wanted, if that makes sense.
I mean, that makes sense because a lot of us, our ancestors came from Africa. And so when you go down there, this food is really similar, but we just have our regional twist to it. I know my mom was saying when she went to Brazil, she was supposed to live there before the pandemic. She was like looking at something. She was like, they told her it was something. She was like, these are collards. Like, what is this? Like, oh, so I'm at home, basically. So that influence makes a lot of sense why you liked it like that. So let's switch to your experience in Dominican Republic. We can't forget about that. Comparatively from Colombia to being actually on an island, how was that, since you said you like the Caribbean vibe?
DR, since clearly, like I say, Colombia is connected to like a mainland, like, yeah, you have the Caribbean, but like Dominican Republic was really, really the Caribbean. And I think that like we had just the random rain showers in the middle of the day. Like it was just random bullets, or like the fact that like in the Dominican Republic, I actually stayed with Afro Dominicans. Like it was like the other places that I were staying at were not Afro, but I still Afro Dominicans. And I think that I made friends. Like in like 3 weeks, I'm gonna go see them again. Like I'm gonna go down the hill. So like, hey, and we call each other like my host brothers, my host cousins, like just that's what we just do. And it's like that was, I mean, I don't want to like I stress over Colombia obviously because it's like I've stayed there a longer period of time and I love my experience there. But the DR is somewhere where like it feels like home too. Like I was thinking like, oh, where should I go like for spring break? I'm just gonna go to both because I don't even want to do it to myself and like have to choose. But the DR is just like it's home, like, and especially since we have a lot of Dominicans in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like that's kind of Dominican culture, which it gave you kind of like a kind of like a prequel. Like you were able to kind of like know a little bit about it beforehand, like a little bit of a taste of it. But
Right.
actually, island is literally just like like it's one of the best things I've ever experienced too as well there.
See, I don't know, Walter. See, now all this talking, I might be moving somewhere,
Just
one of
saying.
those places. Because I felt that way so much when I went to PR. I was like, it's just right. It just
Yeah,
felt right. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Because even, I mean, it's just different when you feel like you could be a part of the environment that you're in, not
you give me
stepping
Puerto Rican
out.
vibes. Like you give me like you could really be down there and like yeah, like
I look, don't that place, do not get me started. I feel it just feels right. That's why I'm like, I definitely need to go. I'm feeling either Colombia or the Dominican Republic this year. Cause I'm like, I need to just experience it. I've not done South America or really any other island except Puerto Rico. So
yeah.
it's time for sure. So a language question. Do you think, are you fluent now?
I'm careful about how I say, right? Like, and maybe you can like also like kind of tag on to it, right? Like for me, what I learned, I know a lot about, I'm fluent in certain areas, right? Like if you put me in a hospital, I'm just like, no. But like I'll say, for instance, like the school that I worked at before when I first became an assistant principal, I worked at a school that was 98% Hispanic. And the parents were like 60%, 60 to almost 70% of our parents were like at students that were either they were newcomers or like their students were like newcomers, and so they didn't know any English. And so a lot of my job was like dealing with like the front office and operations, and then I had my other stuff. So like I spoke Spanish probably 80% of the time at work every day.
Wow.
Um, Staff that I was managing were Hispanic except one person, and so like throughout the office, like we would just switch back and forth. And even now, all of my staff is like, I mean, it's Houston, all of
Right.
my staff here, so we just go back and forth to Spanish and English, and it's just become a part of like life. So, I mean, I would say yes, but also like I said, like if there's a native speaker in the room, it's like I'm not a translator by any means. However, I did like my first year teaching, like the Spanish teacher quit, so they made me teach Spanish 1 for one of my classes. So it's like
Wow.
it's good enough to do those things, but like I'm careful about how I say if I'm fluent or not. And plus, like I met a girl when I was in Colombia, so I was thinking to myself, like, the only way that I'm ever gonna like, she was Afro Latina, and I was thinking to myself, the only way I'm gonna ever like connect with her if I just speak Spanish. So like, I just had to learn it because like I really really liked her. So I was like, I want
That
to
is
talk.
so cute. But that's also a good way to learn Spanish. Like that's how a lot of people end up learning different languages, honestly. Um, and on the fluency thing, you probably are. I get that though, because it's like you don't want to. The level of English that we speak is like, okay, I'm not speaking all the way up here in Spanish, but like the fact that you can understand, the fact that you can hold conversations and even just listen, does it go in your ear and make sense and you're not translating it in English?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So that's when I was like, all right, now I had a couple dreams in Spanish. I was like, fine, fine.
Right.
I guess I get it. I get it now. But it makes a difference when you're in the environment and you're hearing it all the time. Do you have anything you would like to say to people who are questioning going abroad or studying abroad?
Yeah, like I mean, like just do it. And like my thing is like I know it seems like oh cliche, like whatever the case is, people like oh just do it. But like literally when I tell y'all like I was not like I said, I was like pretty much supporting myself. Um and not out of like it was kind of like out of a must because like I come from a big family and like once you hit 18, you just kind of do your thing. Like my family's definitely still there supportive, from all other places. But once you're like able to take care of yourself, you just kind of have to. And so for me, it was like with me not really having much support, like with me like just kind of going without like granted, I probably could have planned better in so many different instances, but everything still worked out. So definitely try to plan around it if you can. But like I did it with like little to no resources and just going to the international office or like even like I know a lot of educators are going to different countries and like getting jobs and like there a lot of companies are paying for them to go work and like the opportunities are literally there and it is not that hard. Like I think people think that it takes so much planning to like do these things and it's just like no, it's really not like and everyone wants this perfect thing. I'm like it's not gonna be perfect no matter how much you plan it. So like just do it. Like literally just get on the internet. If you think about get on the internet, search it. When you have time, when you're bored, search things up. Like send emails, like follow Instagram and Twitter pages that like put out the information, like and just do it casually. And then when it comes, it comes. Cause like you're talking about something like you Claudia talking about some PR, DR, this and like we all know all these changes are going through the pandemic. You're especially when you're remote and stuff, you're gonna end up somewhere like I know it. So I'm just
I'm
waiting for you to like
No,
pop up
this
and go.
conversation is the first time in a while where I'm like, I might be leaving because it sounds so amazing and it's just such an awesome opportunity. And honestly, would you be where you were if you didn't study abroad?
No, like it brought the best out of me. Like it brought the best, and like I know you can say I know for a fact. Like I cannot sit on here in this camera and look at you in your face and you not tell me that Spain did not make some type of like huge impact. Like that. Like I mean, every person that I've talked to that has studied abroad has like it literally hits areas and brings it. Because like there were some down times where I was kind of down and out, and I'm like, wait, what? But like studying abroad literally made me comfortable enough to move away from my family to the fact that like now I'm in Houston and I have no regrets and I'm probably not going to move back to even the same state remotely even around it like I won't even consider like even Tennessee, maybe not even Georgia. Like I don't even really want to be like near like at that point. It's like not even thinking about like because I don't like it, but it's just the fact that like there's so much more out here in the world that like you haven't experienced that like literally studying abroad and being in a different place in a different like just area of the world away from my family and still being able to connect with them, right? Because I value relationships with my family members, but like while you're young, you gotta go do it. I mean, you really just gotta go and like just have fun. Like, I mean, that's all I can really say. Like, I can sit here and talk
No.
about it, but like, it's just folks have to find their own path and like what their reason is for it, and it's like just go. But the thing is, though, when you do go, like, I think everyone has this like idea that like has to be Cancun or it has to be like Cabo. Like, Barranquilla was none of that. Like, Barranquilla could be McDougal and like Durham, like the some of the more like it can be kind of like but you got to make it what you want it, and you have to you got to pull from it what you kind of want it to be. So I said just go do it. I mean, just go.
And just like you said, you did Argentina first. It wasn't your favorite thing, but you tried again and you had an amazing experience. So
Yep, absolutely. But I think Argentina also, like, it's almost like one of those things like if you fail at something, just get up and try it again, because Argentina taught me what I wanted in like an experience. So that's why Colombia was so great, because I was like, all right, take a note. This is what I don't want. This is what I don't want. This is what I don't want. This is what I do want. Okay, I want this also. And then like just making sure to like do that in those places. So like don't just like focus on one place. Like you're like, oh well, maybe like I used to the PR, and then maybe DR, maybe start off in PR because it's still the United States, and then go to DR, and like PR might tell you what you kind of want in DR, but like you still have the security. Then like you just got to try stuff out. I think when people are like and then even just hearing like you kind of like consider it and stuff, I'm like, look, girl, you got to put up some videos or something when you do, because I'm like, I know you're gonna love it, and I'm just curious.
you just convinced me, because I was looking at tickets already, but I was like, okay, now I'm going. So that's really awesome. And I will say, and then we'll wrap it up, kind of on your point that I did not ever in my entire life think I wanted to go to Spain. It wasn't even on the radar. And it changed my life. It really made a huge impact. So kind of go out of your comfort zone. It's definitely, it can be scary, but I mean, I didn't think I was going to live in Spain and teach English in a school, like after my first experience. So to your point, definitely. But thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And everyone, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will put Walter's information under. Do you have social media, a specific social media you want to plug really fast?
Yeah, just Instagram, Walter h6.06.
Okay, cool. I will put that in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.
Halfway to Mexico.